Hi there, it's Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder here with a new video series that I want to start doing called the Rogue Challenge. This is one of my favorite things in all of Magic, is challenging myself with taking a card that might not work in standard or might not work in a format or might just be a bad card and see how well we can do with that particular card. So this particular one actually came from a fan that messaged me asking if I think that Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord might be able to be playable in standard. Now the biggest problem with Sorin is currently a very powerful card in Pioneer. It's actually starting to gain more popularity again as the mono black aggro decks are kind of switching over to some of the more strategies that can go the distance, because now people are playing things like Sultai Delirium, which is a very grindy deck. So going back to like a vampire aggro based strategy makes sense in Pioneer. Now Sorin has a lot of other cards to work with, mainly payoffs. To cheat in a converted mana cost 5 Champion of Dusk. And this card just gets better and better in the Pioneer as more sets are printed, as there will be more vampires to choose from. However, in Standard, it's losing two key pieces that Pioneer has. First of all, you've got your 2 mana draw card, so your cantrip. It's the 1/1 that comes into play. You lose life, you draw a card, which is really good with Sorin because of the +1 ability of then sacrificing it to deal 3 damage and gaining 3 life. So basically turning it into a lightning helix. So you're cantripping and then lightning helix and still plussing Sorin. So typically in Pioneer, it's cheat out a champion, and then next turn you're going to eat your 1/1 to then kill off a threat or just do some damage. So that's where Sorin definitely has the edge in Pioneer over Standard. We lost a lot of good Standard cards. However, I think there is enough vampires to make this dude work. I've got 2 deck lists that I've built that I think are both pretty decent right now in the field. Right now you have like blue-white control, you have things like Fires of Invention, and you also have Wilderness Reclamation, and then of course mono red. Now all those decks are pretty good with, like, black decks I think do very well against both Wilderness Reclamation and Fires of Invention when you bring in cards like Drill Bit. So you can, if you rip out their Fires of Invention or Wilderness Rec, a lot of times those decks are quite clunky. It's how I was very successful with my mono black aggro deck. Actually got mythic with my mono black aggro, basically my Cauldron Familiar Cat deck, because of being able to prey on the 2 archetypes, the aggro decks and the kind of the mid-range control decks, or combo decks, I guess you call them. I have since given up on mono black aggro because Embercleave is a tough card to deal with, and this might be the same thing with this deck. Like traditional aggro decks that don't run Embercleave, there was a point a couple right before Theros came out where Embercleave wasn't that utilized in aggro decks because it was just such a liability with many of the decks that were currently being played. There were a lot of like food decks, a lot of sacrifice decks, and you never want to get 2 for 1 with an Embercleave, and there just wasn't as good of a payoff as there is now with Embercleave, now with the Annex. So that is when the decks, especially the red decks, have moved over to more Annex Embercleave decks, it makes like cat decks a lot worse because you can still get one shot even if you have been able to control the board as well as gain a bunch of life. So we're going to have to watch for that. Again, I'm not expecting this deck to do very well. I've play tested it, won a couple games with this particular deck. And we also have a version 2 of this deck that I will show. So we have a Dimir deck that does have some pretty decent vampires and has a Surveil strategy. And we have this kind of Aristocrats sacrifice strategy for this Orzhov deck. So let's go ahead and look at the deck list of what I compiled. This is going to be an Orzhov Cat Brew. So we're going to run the Cauldron Familiar, which is with the Witch's Oven. So the combo with this is definitely if you have some sort of payoff, and there is a vampire that does have a payoff. There's actually 2 of them. So we have the Vindictive Vampire at 4, and we also have the Cruel Celebrant that does the same thing at 2. So if we can get the cat combo, we can drain our opponents quite quickly with the Cruel Celebrant or the Vindictive Vampire. Also, Sorin's going to help speed that up. Possibly on like turn 4, we could actually get 2 of these out. You know, you cast a Cruel Celebrant and cheat in a Vindictive Vampire, or possibly even turn 3, you just cheat in a Vindictive Vampire, then cast one the next turn, or maybe even cast 2 of them, and then you can kind of start going nuts with the Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven. That's why I've included just 3 of Knight of Ebon Legion. I think that the Vampire of the Dire Moon is slightly better in this build. Possibly not. You know, because the Lifelink I thought had more synergy with the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. We'll have to see which one we actually prefer. I actually think it's going to be the other way around. I think Knight of Ebon Legion is going to be slightly better than the Vampire of the Dire Moon, because I think that we're going to have a lot of ways to gain life in this deck, and then put those counters on the Sorin Imperious, or the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. So let's just go down the list even more. We talked about Cruel Celebrant being one of the payoffs for creatures dying. We have the Pitiless Plunderer, which is a vampire that also has the ability to sacrifice things. This is a pretty good like number 5 and number 6 Witch's Oven, that if you need to kill some things to hit those triggers, then the Pitiless Pontiff is a great way to do so. Also, it gains Indestructible and Death Touch. You can block creatures forever with this creature, and it's a very, very versatile creature, being able to be this big wall chump blocker, even aggressive at that point. And then again, if we have multiple of the Cruel Celebrants and the Vindictive Vampires out, it actually could be a win condition if you have enough creatures to then sacrifice. Bloodthirsty Aerialist is kind of cool in this deck. It's your Johnny's Pride mate with flying. This gets out of control very quickly. It's got some decent synergy with Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord. Last game that I played versus Fires of Invention, actually was able to shut down their Fires of Invention with a drill bit, and then the Bloodthirsty Aerialist actually got bigger than the rest of their threats, and they had a hard time actually attacking through, and then eventually my board actually got bigger than the Fires board, just hard casting things every turn. Remember in that game, my opponent did have a Dream Trawler that was unable to attack in to a Bloodthirsty Aerialist. All right, so Midnight Reaper is another card that I think is a great payoff in this deck. Basically, it's got synergy with everything, Witch's Oven, with the Pitiless Pontiff, with creatures, dying and gaining life. You're going to be able to draw cards. Then it's also decent versus Sorin. You can actually now kill off a vampire and then have this creature draw you a card, so you don't feel like you're behind in the card advantage. Sorin Imperious Bloodlord, of course, is the card that we're trying to work around here. It's going to give vampires Death Touch and Lifelink. Kind of fun, nice with this card. I was looking at of bringing in like a Shadow Spear. I don't know if we need a Shadow Spear in the sideboard, but Death Touch and Trample is always a neat little combo, because you just have to deal one damage to each creature blocking it, as that's all that's required for the Trample clause, and you can actually get through pretty well with like a big Vindictive Vampire. I think if we're going to go that route, though, we'd probably focus more on like running a Johnny and a Johnny's Pride Mate, and maybe Helod, and then we're really starting to wane away from the vampire strategy. So for this brew, I decided not to include a Shadow Spear, but it's definitely a card you could put in the sideboard, for like Dream Trawlers or whatnot. Then we have the Epicure of Blood. I'm just testing this card out. It's kind of a bad card, but it's another drain effect with Cauldron Familiar, and there's a lot of ways to gain life in this deck, so we're going to run a 2 of. It's a 4 for our body. We can cheat out with the Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. Don't want too many of them. After that, we're just going to run 21 lands, so 2 plains, 3 Castle Locktwains, 8 swamps, and then a Godless Shrine Fabled Passage combo. I think that's the best mana we have right now in the mix. I don't want any temples. I do not want any lands coming into play tapped. Fabled Passage, the exception. So with this 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yep, 21 lands I think is fine for this deck. Possibly you could go up. I don't know, maybe cut another vampire, some go to 22, 23. I think the 21, of course, on Arena with Arena's Cheaty Shuffler is definitely the right route to go. All right, let's go on to the sideboard. The sideboard for this particular deck is going to run 2 Duresses and 3 Drill Bits. I could see going up to full package of 4 Drill Bits, maybe Agonizing Remorse instead of Duress. Other than, I think 1 mana is where you want to be with these cards. This is going to be for ripping out those Wilderness Reclamations and those Fires of Inventions. Then 2 Murderous Riders. Thought I'd bring it in here. It's got some synergy with the other Sorin that we'll talk about in a second. This is going to kill problematic Planeswalkers. I'm sure Narset's going to be a pain to deal with, so definitely bring it in versus Blue-White. And then you'd probably want to deal it in versus any other deck that's going to go bigger than you, as it's a way to kill those big creatures. It's also would probably bring it in versus Embercleave deck, because this is the way that you actually can interact with Embercleave. Then we have Playcrafters, which is 3 of. Playcrafters really in here for Dream Trawler. It's also decent against the aforementioned bigger decks that are trying to go bigger than you. That if you can sacrifice a cat and make them sacrifice a big creature with Playcrafter, or simply to sacrifice a Playcrafter, I think that's a pretty good payoff. 2 Mortifies, more interaction versus Embercleave. It also can destroy like Banishing Lights. That could be a problem. And then any other creature. So it's just a nice flexible card. And then 2 Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. The synergy with this is absolutely insane in this deck. I didn't want it in the main. Possibly do. Who knows? Maybe we'll switch it out for the Epicure of Bloods. and it allows you to then return creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield for -X. This guy's loyalty goes up very quickly. It also gives your creatures and planeswalkers lifelink, so it deals damage, it returns stuff back from the graveyard, exactly what you want in a card. And I thought about running just a one of Gruesome Menagerie in the sideboard for like probably against the blue-eye control, just to go over the top of it. I don't know if this is necessary, if Sorin's just better. So again, this is like a really, really rudimentary alpha version of this deck. Eventually, we want to figure out what works out even better and start to tune it. So that's version number 1. Let's go on to version number 2. Save and exit, I guess. We made some changes. Version number 2 of the deck, and I apologize for the kind of crappy quality. I am on my backup computer, which isn't the fastest computer, so anyway, might be a little bit laggy. So now we're going to go to the really bad vampire deck, which is a Surveil strategy. Funny, I call it really bad vampire. I'm actually 2-1 with this deck. Only I beat a Fires of Invention deck and a Rakdos Aristocrats deck with this deck, and then lost to a mono white, which is actually super close. My opponent, the third of Johnny's Pride Mate, got me. Anyway, so the really bad vampire deck is going to be running off a Surveil theme. This one is going to run 4 Knight of the Ebon Legions and 4 Vampire of the Dire Moons, and then 4 Whispering Snitches, which deal 1 damage and gain a life every time you Surveil. So we do have some Surveil. We're going to run 10 Surveil cards, 4 being Discovery Dispersal. Dispersal is actually pretty good in this format. It can make your opponent, if you can get up to 5 mana versus Embercleave. Usually Embercleave is the highest converted mana cost card, so you can actually block the creature that they're throwing Embercleave on, force them to return Embercleave back to their hand, force them a lot of times to then discard that Embercleave, and then it dumbs down their creature, which oftentimes you're now able to kill and not even trade with. So I found that interaction pretty good with Discovery Dispersal. Discovery is, of course, pretty good with just Surveil, draw a card, has the synergy with the Whispering Snitch. Thought Erasure is a nice card in this deck. It's a typical kind of black aggro strategy to put out a threat like Knight of the Ebon Legion, and then Thought Erasure and get rid of something, and then you're getting, some damage in. Then we have the Blood Operative. This card's actually a lot better in this format than I thought. I mean, it actually exiles Euros and exiles, things that are going to be coming back from the graveyard, which surprisingly is more decks than you would think. Like already versus like Esper Control, I see with the Elspeth Conquers Death, you can get rid of whatever is in their graveyard they're planning on getting back. And this is a recurring threat as well with Surveil. So we do have the 10 Surveil cards in the deck that then can get back Blood Operative. And we're a gain life deck, so that 3 life, paying 3 life to return it back to your hand is not that horrible. Bloodthirsty Aerialist is also in this deck because we have a lot of lifelink. Whispering Snitch, Blood Operative. The Sorin will give lifelink. Murderous Rider if you cast it on its lifelink side. So this card is going to get out of control pretty quickly if we can actually keep it alive. And then we have Sorin at Imperious Bloodlord as a 4 of, as well as Murderous Rider. Again, Sorin's kind of weird with the +1 being able to sacrifice a vampire. There's not any vampires you really want to kill, with the exception of maybe a Blood Operative to then, get it back. I don't know. It's kind of awkward there, but the +1 counter, lifelink, death touch, and putting a vampire into play seems okay with this one. Definitely not as good of synergy with Sorin in this particular deck as the last one. But again, we got to do what we got to do, and I think that this is the best way to kind of build around Sorin with the Surveil strategy. A 2 of Notion Rain kind of feeds into our very, very aggressive converted mana cost deck, and Surveils 2 draws cards, fixes what we need, and then hopefully we get some threats with the Notion Rain and can overwhelm our opponent. This one's going to run 4 Castle Locktwains, 2 Islands, 8 Swamps, 4 Water Graves, and 4 Fabled Passages. The sideboard, we're going to put the Nightvale Predator. Now, we could think about putting Nightvale Predator in the main, and it does have the best synergy with the Sorin. Currently, I have it in the sideboard because it's really not where we want to be. This is going to be good versus the Go Bigger decks. It's also going to be good versus the Blue-Eye Control because they can't Elspeth it, they can't Banishing Light it. They can still board wipe, though, and that's why I'm thinking this card's quite awkward. Flying Death Touch Hexproof, then it can start getting +1/+1 counters from Sorin. I think this is a pretty neat little card for the deck as far as sideboard is concerned. Atrata is another card that I thought about putting in the sideboard, and we'll go ahead and put 1 in. Let's just for the meme's sake, we'll go ahead and put a Atrata in. I think we can just cut Allegiance End down to 1. Atrata is a decent little vampire, 3/5, decent on the block, and can start exiling any one of your opponent's creatures. But then the problem with Atrata is then it gets shuffles in. So this becomes a very awkward 4 mana spell. And yes, it can be a win con if you can end up exiling 3 or more cards with Atrata. then you have to deal combat damage as well, right? Geez. So it's really, really hard for the win condition with Etrata without being able to cheat it in with like haste effects. That's why I don't like it. But for the meme, we'll throw it in the sideboard. We also have a disinformation campaign. I feel we got enough Surveil to make this actually worthwhile. Frika's Liberation, I think, is a little bit better in this particular deck than Plaguecrafter, as this makes our opponent sacrifice a creature or an enchantment. So hopefully we can make them sacrifice that Dream Trawler. And then we're going to run a combo of 2 drill bits and 2 duresses, I think is good. Possibly drill bits in this particular one. Yeah, I actually do think these need to be agonizing remorses now I think about it. We don't have the ways to really guarantee the life loss. So I think two duresses, 2 agonizing remorse is better. 2 epic downfall, because one of the problems with this particular deck versus the Orzhov deck is the implication of decks going bigger than you and not being able to kind of keep up with them. So you do want to be able to get rid of those bigger creatures, and epic downfall is the perfect card for that. And then a One of Legion's End. We kind of have our bases covered at that point. And we're going to run a Davriel in here, just a 1 of. So duress, agonizing remorse. We have Thought Erasers in the sideboard. That gives a way to rip out the hand, and then Davriel can be a threat. So that's kind of what we have with the Orzhov one. We're going to play a couple of games with both of these decks and see which one we like the most. So let's go ahead and let's start off with the Orzhov, or the Dimir one, and see if we can get some decent gameplay with this bad deck. Yeah. Fortunately, when I screen record with this deck, man, it lags. Again, I apologize for the kind of shoddy quality. This ends up being a pretty terrible hand. I think we mull it. We have Castle Lochthwain, Fabled Passage. We Fabled Passage for a Swamp. Yeah, actually, this is okay. Like, this sucks that we're not going to be able to Thought Erasure, but I think we can go Fabled Passage, Swamp, then get Castle Lochthwain into play untapped, and we have a decent hand after that. Notion Rain, of course, might... Ooh, this might actually change things. This might change things. Yeah, because well, Surveil can find us another something. So I think this is still the better play. We're going to go ahead and just still get a Swamp. And then we'll Discovery Dispersal next turn. So Temple of Silence could be anything at this point. It's going to be probably the 3-colored Knights, which we should have a decent matchup for. We'll Castle Lochthwain, and yes, we do need to Surveil. Yeah, I want to hit land drops next turn. So Whispering Knight is not where I want to be. We can get rid of Sorin. We have an additional Sorin, and get the Watery Grave. So Watery Grave will allow us to do Sorin and something like Whispering Snitch. But Worthy Knight's going to get out of control. I think we lost this one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out enough pressure here. So, yeah, it's still going to be Sorin minus. That forces attack into Sorin. And maybe a Bloodthirsty Aerialist. But still kind of bad. Or just Bloodthirsty Aerialist. And then we can cheat in a Blood Operative next turn. I don't think that's the right play either. We could just Blood Operative. Or just Bloodthirsty Aerialist. I think just Bloodthirsty Aerialist I think is better here. Because then we can go Thought Erasure, Whispering Snitch next turn. But I mean, our opponent just flooded out. If they get a land here, then Knight of the Ebon Legion's a threat. The good thing is we can block most of these cards that are coming in. And yeah, best case scenario, our opponent did miss a land drop last turn, correct? Yeah, because we have... No, did not. Just going to cast that Smitten Knight. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So we have to shock ourselves again. And then we got to snitch. And hopefully we can rip out something amazing from our opponent. Huh. Can't cast anything. Can cast that Circle of Loyalty, and I think that's the biggest threat. And we'll throw away the Blood Operative, because don't we just get it back? No, it doesn't. Yeah. Yep. I knew that it worked that way, because I remember from drafts that it works that way. And we will take the action, get it back. So we're down to 12, which is very, very scary. If we draw a land, we could go like Whispering Snitch and another. But I think we just need to get Blood Operative out, and we'll do that with a Sorin. But opponent top decks a Smitten Swordsmith, and then they go for it. So this is the bigger threat. This is the next big threat. Unfortunately, Knight of the Ebon Legion is going to go up. Actually, Lifelinker's the threat here. Yep. So at least we get a kill. We only take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We go down to 2. So we do get a Fabled Passage, which doesn't change much. It allows us to go crazy here, though. I wonder if killing... So we want to go Sorin, for sure. No, this is going to be the play. So we're going to go Sorin. So our opponent is banking on drawing another, like, Knight, like a Smitten Swordsmith, just for the win. So let's go Sorin. We're going to use Sorin's negative to put Blood Operative on the battlefield. Just get rid of the Smitten Swordsmith. And that allows us also to cast a Whispering Snitch. And we're actually in okay shape. So land is the most problematic card our opponent can draw, or another, of course, Smitten Swordsmith. So that's an out. Another problematic card would be the card that gives all creatures 1 creature +1/+1 and the rest of the creatures additional. Or so 1 creature +1/+1 and then all creatures +1/+1. That would be the worst. So I'm thinking my opponent... Yes, okay, so that does win the game. Yeah, that won the game by the Murderous Rider. Yep. So unfortunately, we don't have any way to gain life, and it's exactly lethal. So my opponent did draw the land, kills the Blood Operative, and there's no way around this because we don't have any lifelink. So possibly I should have just killed a Whispering Snitch to gain the 3 life, and then killed like a Knight, and then our opponent would have been able to... No, then we would have still died. Because we would have gained 3 life, our opponent would have killed the Bloodthirsty Aerialist, and then we'd still have another Whispering Snitch out. I don't know. Maybe that was the better play. But a little bit unfortunate there. Just got flooded out. Kind of weird with the Fabled Passage. It was one of those on the edge decks, or keeps. Let's go ahead and play another one. But we would have survived that turn. I think we would have started pushing ahead. The next turn we could start gaining life with the like the Aerialist, and our flyer was going to start to get kind of buff there. Possibly too, maybe I shouldn't have lost the 3 life to get back the 3/1. Maybe that was a bad play. All right, this is definitely keepable hand. We have a 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, so we got a great curve here. And we have good action versus aggro decks. So this is a problematic deck for us. Because the Pridemates just get really out of hand, but we have our own Pridemate here. Like, Heliod Pridemate is tough, so we need to avoid flooding out, but we also need to Discovery to find a land. We need a Thought Eraser like Heliod out. It's not going to get there, though. And I'll make this trade any day of the year. See if our opponent has the +2/+2 and Indestructible, but it's still a good trade. Like, this is the only point of this card, is just to make a trade. That is one of their opponent's best cards. Terrible attack by my opponent. To their credit, they don't know what I'm playing, but that still, in my opinion, is a horrible attack. Elysiate of Life's Bounty is a win con. And when you're Pridemates, one of the problems with this deck is Pridemates can get chump blocked for just years. And this allows, especially its monocolor decks, that it can't get chump blocked. So I do not like that play by my opponent. We're going to Discovery, do the same thing we usually do. Do I need this other Discovery? I don't think so. So we're going to take the action. And get this Blood Operative back. Gideon Blackblade. Going to be a pain to deal with. I think we will need to Murderous Rider it. We'll see. Like, Sorin's actually interesting here. We can go like Sorin Blood Operative, block the Gideon. Or do we just wait a turn? I'm really thinking Gideon needs to be taken care of right now, before some way that it can... Yeah, it's iffy. This is a pretty iffy play. I could get a Blood Operative out. I get a Sorin Blood Operative block. That doesn't do much. I could get a Bloodthirsty Aerialist. No, I think we are just going to take care of Gideon. Not happy with that play because now I feel behind. We need to get a threat out, not take care of something. So next turn, though, if my opponent does, they could have like a bad hand like Heliod. Ugh, now I really hate my play.
The gods bless us in our righteous cause.
So that doesn't help at all. I think we just put out a blood operative. Hate that play. But we're going to be taking some damage from the second Gideon. So Gideon attacks in. Next turn, we can go like Sorin Bloodthirsty Aerialist. Daxos, not Daxos. Now we can't attack into Gideon. I'm pretty sure this one's over. I don't think we're going to be able to come back from this. I'm trying to figure out the best. We needed a land for sure there. Like Sorin. Yeah, let's do Sorin. Let's do a minus. Put out a Bloodthirsty Aerialist. And that's that. So we have a blocker for like Gideon, but I'm pretty sure we still lose Sorin. I'm hoping he attacks everything into Gideon. We can block the Life's Bounty. Get that out of the way so that there's no more protection. Banishing Light, probably in the, yeah, targeting the Aerialist. Ay, ay, ay. Still hoping for an attack with the... Probably both these have to go on to Sorin. My opponent just exiled their own card trying to give it lifelink. Okay. Well then, that happened. So I think our opponent was trying to give it lifelink or indestructible and then attack in. And that way I'd have to choose and then probably is going to attack my face with both these two. But they clicked wrong. Alright, whatever. Okay. Let's give this one more and let's swap over to the next one. And I'm pretty sure the Orzhov deck will work out better. But that was, yeah, careful with your clicks, people. We're just in the fun queue, though, which means you'll only go against tier decks, because that's how tryhard people are. Another kind of weird Castle Lock Twain hand, but I think this one's fine, especially on the draw. So we have a Temple of Mystery, which could be Wilderness Reclamation or a ramp deck. Ew, another Castle Lock Twain, jeez. Come on, where's just the Swamp of Swamps? Okay, could be Flash too. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and see what we're up against. So it's Sultai Ramp. So Euro is probably the play because our opponent's planning on casting Euro. And then they just have to do Thought Erasure. And Euro is actually, and I don't even care if they Thought Erasure. We have multiples of everything. Like, I'd like to get rid of Hydroid Krasis, but Euro is the card that they're planning on ramping. And we're going to throw that in the graveyard. Cool. We keep getting blood operatives with these Surveils, which is really sweet card interaction. Unfortunately, so opponent's going to go Thought Erasure. Oh, no, they don't. Unfortunately, we can't blood operative this turn. We do know that they have a card we want to get rid of. Oh, they couldn't go Thought Erasure. Yeah, because they missed the red. So I think the best thing, they still need a black. They have double Thought Erasure and Atris, which is going to be a hard card. But I think that Hydroid Krasis is just the right card. Whispering Snitch is a card I don't think is going to do anything. So we'll just surveil it away. And let's hope we can actually draw a untap land next turn. Ugh, did get a growth spiral. Did they hit the land with the growth spiral? Yes, indeed, and it was a black source. So I still think the payoff was Hydrocrasis was the better one. Opponent's going to probably get rid of Blood Operative, I would assume, because they want Euro. Murder's Rider. Okay. So let's just go ahead and take this opportunity to Blood Operative away that Euro. Ooh, do I need to? How much time do I have? Yeah, Euro can actually a couple more cards. Huh. I kind of actually, you know what? Is hitting a land drop actually more important here? Oh yeah, that's why I didn't get the Blood Operative, because I would just got back with Discovery. Yeah, I think so. Okay, we'll take both of those. Actually, we don't need the Watery Grave. I guess Watery Grave would have been better, actually. Derp. Because it would have come into play tapped anyway. But we don't use a lot of blue in this deck. I mean, our blue's pretty much done now with the Thought Erasures. Now our opponent should take the Blood Opera. Oh my, goes for Murderous Rider now. Okay, so now we need to take care of Euro. I'm surprised it didn't go Atris, because you'd assume opponent needed a land drop. So I think that was a misplay by my opponent for sure. So now we have Blood Operative. It's going to get rid of Euro. But I mean, we still, for an aggro deck, we feel pretty far behind. Ramp is up to 4. Got kind of lucky they've missed things. There's the Atris, so I don't want to give my opponent lands. I could care less. So, Eat from Extinction. I don't want Pelucranos. Agonized Remorse my opponent can have. Huh. I think we're going to show him the Pelucranos. Okay, so Pelucranos goes to the graveyard. Unfortunately, we get another land, but we can double cast, so now those cards are pretty bad. Wait, we'll attack first. No, we actually want these out. I was like, we attack first, that way Knight of Eben Legion can get through, but let's get in with the Blood Operative. Opponent should block, I would assume. Yeah, but we get 2 counters. Hey, we got 2, 3, 4 flyers. Opponent has an Agonized Remorse that doesn't do anything now. Can get rid of like a Blood Operative. Casualty Wars is still far away. Eat from Extinction is kind of an awkward card. It's going to be the play, in my opinion, getting rid of a Bloodthirsty Aerialist. However, that gives us the option to double the Knight up next turn. Or we could draw cards. Okay, Tyrant Scorn was the top deck. That's fine. Still missing lands. There's a land. We also hit a land. Derpa derpa. Too many lands. We have one in the graveyard as well. So I've got a couple of options. We'll definitely Castle Locktwain. Yeah, that's fine. We'll do a Castle Locktwain. A card is better than 3 damage, I would assume. Oh no! I tapped my blue. So Notion Rain's going to get eaten, which kind of sucks. Wide Agonizing. Then we have lethal next turn. So opponent needs to actually eat from an Extinction. They can't do anything. Oh, there goes the Casualty of War taking care of the island. Womp womp. That sucks. I don't know if I played this pretty terribly. So my opponent's going to go Casualty of War, kill Bloodthirsty Airless, kill the island. And then I can't cast this stupid Notion Rain. So failed passes probably should have got me another backup island. They had Casualty of War in hand. This is why I don't play actual games while I stream, because I make terrible plays. I also could see Pelucranos coming out here, but I think the Pelucranos play is awful. I think it's very awful. I think the Eat from Extinction was an awful play. Because he wanted to go Agonizing Remorse, huh? Over Casualty of Wars, though. Casualty of Wars would have taken care of more. So Remorse gets rid of the Notion Rain. That's fine. That's fine. Notion Rain at this point wasn't, and still does a lot. Jeez, I can draw lands like they're going out of style here. Okay, don't use an island auto-tapper. Let's use black sources since I have a million of them, all right? Whispering Snitch, huh? I think I'd rather have another card. This gives me a threat, though. Yeah. So, now my opponent has to casual wars the island. I don't think there's any other play. You casual wars, kill the Bloodthirsty Airless in island. That is interesting. Okay, well, we'll take it. I guess my opponent doesn't want me double drawing cards in a turn, but you always get rid of the one of. I do not understand these plays. See, now I get a Thought Erasure you, which also surveils, gets rid of Nissa. I think we actually do want a Discovery Dispersal at this point. Gets back a Blood Operative, cast a Blood Operative, get rid of Plukranos, all because you decided to be greedy with that Castle Locktwain. Very, very terrible play. All right, so I'm not the only one capable of terrible plays today. Go ahead and attack in with the Whispering Snitch, down to a 4. We have lethal on board next turn. Opponent's out of cards. They need a top deck here, and I don't know what top deck actually gets them out of this. That one does. That was a pretty decent top deck. Then we do get the Discovery Dispersal we can do on my opponent's upkeep. On the draw, anyway. No. Dispersal does... That's fine. We'll actually do the Surveil part of this. Okay, Auto Tapper. Would you quit trying to use my blue? You garbage. That actually is wins, right? And I'll take them. Stupid Auto Tapper. Might as well just take action for the meme. But Sorin just wins here.
I have not survived millennia to stand down now. What is one life?
Hey, we got a win out of that versus Casual Wars deck. So, I don't know. This deck's kind of fun. It's not terrible. It's a great casual deck. I still encourage people to brew around. Man, is this standard horrible right now. I absolutely hate it. We haven't gone up against any obnoxious decks yet, but I hate Embercleave. I hate that card with a passion. I think it's the biggest cheese card ever. It leads to either blowout games, either you winning big or your opponent losing big because they, went all in on an Embercleave. I think it's a poorly designed card. It's just... they made the reduction cost too good. They made the equip cost way too good. Basically, it ends up being a Teamer Battle Rage with flashback for 3, which is nuts. And I just cannot stand that card. So, like, standard right now, we'll go off on a little bit of a tangent of a wine mode here. I can't stand Wilderness Reclamation and Fire's Invention. Any cards that just double mana, I think, do not add to the variety of what decks can be played in a standard format. So whenever you're analyzing a card, does this make the format better or worse? And in my opinion, both Wilderness Reclamation and Fire's Invention make the format worse. And then we have Embercleave, which was just a poorly designed card, and we're still struggling with both Narset and Teferi, which their static abilities just make this a cheese format. There are just too much cheese going around. Anyway, enough of that. Eventually, I think that it's going to be a while before rotation, but War of the Spark is going to be a very, 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 very happy day when that set rotates. But we still have to deal with like some of the cards from Throne of Eldraine for longer, for years to come here. Anyway, let's go ahead and play the Orzhov version of the deck, and hopefully my processor can handle these games. Again, I'm on my backup computer. Did it choose Orzhov there? I don't even know what it just did there. We selected a deck, but did it actually select? It indeed did. This is a great hand. Yep, this is absolutely wonderful. Sorin cats, backup cats. We need a vampire, but as soon as we get a vampire, I think Sorin's pretty decent. So... I don't know, maybe this... You always keep a hand with Cauldron Fill or Witch's Oven because of just how strong that combo is. Maybe people might have the same complaint I have about that combo as they do with, Embercleave, and I do with Embercleave and Fires and stuff. But I actually enjoy the Cauldron Fill or Witch's Oven. It gives a whole element of like just pure value that you can add to any black deck. Right now I have a Golgari food deck. I call it Golgari Fight Club, that actually just uses the Cauldron Filler Witch's Oven because of just the synergies it has. What the hell? I just go to a main board, Leyline of the Void, derp. So I'm thinking this is some sort of enigmatic deck because there's no point to Leyline of the Void. But it's funny when I'm like, ew, I got this Witch's Oven Cauldron Familiar, and now I got double Witch's Oven Cauldron Familiar. But it puts out a Leyline of Void, a card that I haven't seen in Standard in eons. We will put out a Witch's Oven. Stupid, stupid. I'll put out another one so my opponent can laugh. This is magic for you. What a joke. Leyline of the Void is why I'm laughing at Leyline of the Void. It's pretty much insignificant versus 90% of all decks. It's absolutely terrible. I actually should have gone Fatal Passage last turn. That was a mistake. So basically the only deck that Leyline of the Void works against is going to be Cauldron Familiar. That's it. There's not a lot of other recursions. Maybe you can say Kraxos Euro. But other than that, that's all it is in the format. So the vast majority of decks you're looking at, I guess it works versus UI control too. But it's something you do not put in the main. But whatever. Like I said, I'm sure they're getting some sort of value out of Leyline of the Void. I guess. So it's mono black. So mono black just trying to get the devotion off of Leyline of the Void. Ay, ay, ay. What a joke. Alright, so Midnight Reaper even now gets shut down by Leyline of the Void, but we'll go Sorin. And we will negative Sorin. And we'll put in Epicure Blood. Yeah, actually Leyline of the Void shuts down all of our die effects. We just lose to a Leyline, and we go into the casual queues against some rando that goes first turn Leyline. Ugh, all I can do is laugh. So mono black is what this is. So might have the God Hand here of, oh, Rankle. Unfortunately, Rankle kills my Sorin. But we actually don't even need Sorin. I guess it's okay for the devotion. Still a bad card. Why am I joking? It's a terrible card. So Sorin here is pretty bad. I think we just have to get in with the Epicure of Blood. And then just go Midnight Reaper that's kind of shut down. Because of Leyline. Look at this hand we would have had, though, without Leyline. Vampire's okay over Midnight Reaper. Sorin I still can't protect. Good news is we still can, like, win with life loss. Yeah, Midnight Reaper's terrible here. I hate to just go Sorin, but it's going to be Vampire. And pass the turn. I don't think we have a way to beat this with the Leyline. Because it will shut down also both the Vindictive Vampire and the whatever the other Blood Artist Drain card is. Because how the die... This is what I don't like about both Rest in Peace and Leyline, how this shuts down die. I wish they'd reword what die was. Or they just named it whenever a creature you control is destroyed. So we're going to destroy the goat, and we'll get rid of the Cauldron Familiar. Oh, just going to have us draw cards. Thank you. Oh, but it's another Midnight Reaper. I mean, mortifying the sideboard, too, could get rid of Leyline, but there is no sideboard, so that's that. Another Cauldron Familiar. We could go Sorin. Get a plus on the... I don't know what to do here. I think we just cry. We We could get in with Cauldron Familiar. Yeah, let's go ahead and attack with everything. Like, our only hope is to drain here. Okay, that's fine. So, we'll sacrifice a Cauldron Familiar, which goes bye-bye. Wonder where my opponent's going to block, and then sack to scry. So, puts on top, so it's got to be a Gray Merchant. I think it's the only card my opponent would decide to keep on top. They need a Gray Merchant here. Sorin is just a very awkward card. So is Midnight Reaper. I think the better play is just Cauldron Familiar. We drain 2, and then we can sacrifice to Witch's Oven and drain another 2. Like, theoretically, we could win this if my opponent just, like, was super greedy here and decided to keep something other than a Gray Merchant. Like, they need a Gray Merchant here, and that's all they need is a Gray Merchant. If they would have kept any other card, even, like, you name it, they're putting themselves in jeopardy of the Epicure of Blood just winning this game. That's what they kept? It's a terrible card. So Rankle, let's really hope my opponent uses some of these modes. Yeah, that's fine. We'll get rid of this awful Midnight Reaper that aren't going to do anything. Gets rid of a Castle Lochtwain too. Right? When did you? What in the world is my opponent doing? Played a basic swamp over a Castle Lochtwain. Goodbye, my poor. This just drains my opponent. It's the only point that I'm doing. Problem is the Epicure of Blood can't get through now, otherwise it gets double blocked. So I think Sorin Kill the Vampire is the best play. Or we could just still do another Cauldron Familiar. We're not drawing lands. So also this Vampire could get in there. Would my opponent block with the Enemy of Enlightenment? If so, we can sack it? Interesting. I'll make that trade because that's one of the more scary cards. So we have to discard a card. Has to get rid of whatever that is. So I guess Wolfstrider can come back, but that's okay. We'll take the mana. No, 4 other cards. Still doesn't even have 4 other cards. Sacrifice the Cauldron Familiar. Down to 3 and then shoot. So it needs a Gray Merchant here. So no, Rankle needs for Sorin to discard a card. I mean, that also works, but didn't you have Rankle for that? I am super confused with my opponent too because it's one off from also escaping. I think our opponent's going to have his Bolt draw card. Highly doubt it's going to go the sacrifice. Yeah, because it's lethal unless opponent wants to sacrifice Rankle. Super weird. You're going to have to sacrifice Rankle here. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fine. we have a lot of ways to just win the game. Unfortunately, I knew that these were coming. Ah, we were so close. Because we did not draw land forever. And now Wolfstrider's going to be able to come out the next turn. Still, though, my opponent's not in a very good shape either. They need a Gary. And Wolfstrider can come out this turn. Timorate! No, but no synergy with the ley line. So can't attack in with the Enemy of Enlightenment. I guess can attack in. It allows Epicure, like a Sorin off the top is pretty good here. That's pretty garbage. Stupid ley line. Epicure of Blood doesn't do anything. We can cast it, though. It gets us closer. But I'm pretty sure we've lost this. Hopefully my opponent just draws land. Other than that, though, they do get the Wolfstrider back. I guess my opponent could exile cards out of their own graveyard to gain life. Yeah, it did keep Rankle to gain a life. So Sorin doesn't get us out of this now. That stupid Leyline Void is keeping the Vindictive Vampire back from doing anything. Because of the die effect. I mean, the name of the game was this ley line. Aerialist now means my opponent can't attack in. Still a very awkward. Timorate's actually a pretty decent sideboard option. Now I'm seeing how it gains life to put the counters on. So is Timorate just going to gain a life and kill the Rankle? All right. So that life is there. So now our opponent's life total is 4. We can take another hit from the Enemy of Enlightenment. And no, my opponent can't attack in with the enemy. So gonna scry. Needs to hit a Gary. Or, I mean, there's so many things my opponent can just draw to win here. Decides to keep it on top. Hopefully it's another Enemy of Enlightenment. Actually, no, that actually is pretty good. What did my opponent want to keep? Sorin still wins me this game. What other cards just flat out win? A lot of cards don't win, don't do anything. At least there's 2 Midnight Reapers down the drain. And 2 Witches Ovens down the drain. So, what cards are still good? We have 2 Sorins down the drain, though, that we can draw into. Anything that gains life, but there's not anything that really does. Opponent's like looking at cards, so I'm assuming they have a kill spell in hand. Liliana. What? That sucks.
Warrior Queen Necromancer has a nice.
I'm sure it's going to be each player sacrifices 2 creature. Ooh, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So I basically have 1 turn to win. Let's hopefully my opponent's a moron and attacks with Enemy Enlightenment, and we just win next turn. Okay, we just win next turn. Wowzers, come on. Complete that attack. Come on, do it! You know you want to. No! My opponent does realize that that is that. So I have to... No, I actually don't need to do a Witch's Oven because I can activate those at any time. Opponent just scoops it up. They're not dead. What in the world is going on with my opponents today? I have not a clue. What is the... Weird. Okay, well, I mean, we'll take it. We'll take it. Let's play one more with the Orzhov. And call it good. Oh, boy. Head scratcher. What was my opponent thinking they were dead to? I can only do... At most, I could sacrifice 2 creatures. And then drain my opponent for 2 from the Epicure. But they'd still be at... Because you don't do damage per life loss. It's 1 life. This is a pretty awful hand, but let's go ahead and keep it. Okay, we're going to cross our fingers for a land. If we don't get a land, we cry. But this has 2 Epicure of Bloods, and I want to see if we can actually really go crazy with this hand. And our opponent's going to be playing... Oh, now we're in terrible position. We didn't want that sec. That was the worst draw. I'm not playing against Wilderness Wreck. Go screw yourself. You want to play Wilderness Wreck? Go play it in a other queue. We lost anyway there. Here, we'll play a different one here. That was a bad hand where we missed a land drop. Shouldn't have kept that hand to begin with. Imagine playing Wilderness Wreck in the fun queues. Most linear deck ever. Ugh, I don't know which one I dislike more. Fire's Invention or Wilderness Wreck. It's the same game every game. I hate linear decks. This is another Garbo hand, but I think I'll keep it. Triple on the Witchy Witch. Its drain's pretty good. Unfortunately, we have to do this nonsense. Gotta go get a black source. What's up with it? It's given us... We have a basic land of 2, and that's... found the island in the Dimir one, and now the plains in the... Heal. Now this hand really sucks. To be honest, Fabled Passage might be the better play here, because we can get out 2 cards. But I think we lose to this matchup. So we'll just go Cauldron Familiar here. Unfortunately, a Drain deck doesn't work very well versus a deck that can do a lot of damage in life, form of lifelink. Especially they got the 1-2 punch here. This is going to be rough. Alright. Well, we have Vampire. So, Cruel Celebrant. Oh my gosh, cancel that. Wrong card. So Healer's Hawk's going to continue to get in here. We're worried about a Heliod. Heliod's the one card that really messes us up because Healer's Hawk becomes a new Pride Mate. Linden, not so much. But yeah, this is going to be very tough to beat this hand. Vindictive Vampire is not where we want to be. And unfortunately, I think we're dead to Heliod or a Johnny here beats us. A Johnny just gets out of control. Because it will eventually just exile our entire board. Witch's Oven would be good on our part because we get Knight of the Ebon Legion up pretty high. Sorin would be pretty garbage now, too. Yeah, we definitely want, like, Witch's Oven into Midnight Reaper if we have any chance of coming back from this one. So, opponent is just going to attack in with Healer's Hawk and Linden. So, I mean, I'm going to block Linden. It's fine. I know this means my opponent's got a backup Linden, but that's fine. We'll take it. Because we have another... Yeah. We have another Death Toucher. In the form of Knight of the Ebon Legion. To be honest, though, the better play is probably just another Cauldron Familiar. And another Knight. And that way, if my opponent attacks in with Linden, we just block with all the Cauldron Familiars. Kind of weird, though. Opponent does look like they're getting flooded, but they have Castle Ardenvale. And Dax. Yeah, Castle Ardenvale Daxos is a pretty decent combo. Pridemate should come in this turn. So we're going to take the burst from the Pridemate. We'll take 10 damage from the Pridemate. 11 damage from the Pridemate. That's fine. And then kill off Linden with all our little kitties. I would like to wait one more turn, but this is the best you can do. We also do gain 3 life here. Unfortunately, it's on my opponent's turn, though. So we need like a Midnight Reaper. That would be the best. Never mind. Killing Linden is terrible, I guess. In this, hey, we got the Midnight Reaper. So Reaper definitely needs to come out this turn, but like Knight of the Ebon Legion keeps my opponent off from attacking. Can I wait a turn? I guess Midnight Reaper can then block Linden, and we can actually lose one of the knights. I think that's a fine play. So block Linden, block Pridemate. Keep a knight back then for have a Death Toucher for Johnny's Pridemate. But knowing our luck, our opponent has the 4th Linden and wants to make that trade. Also, Daxos gets to get in here. Starfield Mystic. Huh. Okay, so let's put a knight in front of Pridemate. Johnny's Pridemate's now higher than my life total. But there's Witch's Oven. Witch's Oven is pretty good. The problem is we need a land. That's fine. Yep, that works. Vindictive Vampire would be pretty good to start getting out here. Witch's Oven is fine. So now we can sack the Midnight Reaper that we block here with. So opponent can't attack with Pridemate now. We're still in pretty bad shape, though. Double Castle Ardenvale with opponent being able to activate it is a problem. And we'd have to trade the knight with a Johnny's Pridemate. So, depending on how my opponent attacks in, we might actually knight into, like, if opponent attacks in with Linden, we'll go Midnight Reaper on Pridemate. At this point, I think it's Cruel Celebrant on Pridemate, Midnight Reaper on Starfield Mystic, and Knight blocking Daxos. I actually like that play. Oh, not going to attack in with the Pridemate. That actually makes it even better, because now we don't even have to block. Well, let's kill Daxos. If that's how my opponent... Yeah, you need to use your... At some point, you just need to, like... use your Pridemates. So I think Daxos is a little bit better. We could go on the Starfield Mystic. I don't think we need to, though. So we're taking 3. Going to create a token. Okay. But we get rid of a Daxos. Cauldron Familiar is actually pretty good there because it's going to give us some draws. Fortunately, we don't have the mana to put that out. We don't really care about putting out the familiar now. Yeah, unfortunately, man, double planes. There was only 2 planes in the deck. We'll go ahead and pass the turn. So, still looking kind of bad for us. Gideon is going to be very, very tough for us to beat.
I walk a righteous path.
Indestructible on Starfield Mystic. Indestructible on Linden. Indestructible on Pridemate. That's where my opponent's going to go. Indestructible, Pridemate. My opponent should give lifelink to Pridemate, because at that point, it just gets out of range of where I can realistically beat this deck.
Share in my light.
But our Cauldron Familiar is just going to come in here. Still need to hit land drops. That's the most important thing. Like, best case scenario next turn is going to be Swamp and Witch's Oven. That way we can get more of these Cauldron Familiars online, and then we can Bloodthirsty Airlist, and then we're in pretty decent shape. So it doesn't want me drawing a card, which is smart. So we just take the damage, which now Johnny's Pridemate is huge. And we go to our turn. Oh, Gideon's going to be a pain next turn. So it's pointless for the Cauldron Familiar. That's not awful. It's also not good. Let's see what we get with the Witch's Oven. Ooh. You know what? Let's get it out. I hate this play, but we need our Aerialist out. Should have done that first. That was a mistake on my part. So, it'd be a 1 toughness bigger, which is actually relevant. Ooh, perfect. That was good. So still would like to hit a land drop. Oh, this gives us 2 blockers, though. Maybe a land drop isn't necessary here. This gives us 2 blockers by killing the Midnight Reaper. No, I think it's better just to do it right now. Gets a counter on my knight. Fortunately, we did not hit what we needed. Is it just, do we not have enough blockers here? I'm not sure. Okay, we'll pass the turn. We do get that counter on the... See, we can block Gideon now, no problem. Because we have a 5/6 Bloodthirsty Aerialist. But Hushbringer affects you as much as it affects me with your deck. All right, we got to use this now. Gotta kill Gideon. Oh, that Hushbringer really messes me up. Really, really messes me up. Yeah, Hushbringer just shuts down Cruel Celebrate and Midnight Reaper. Yikes. Yeah, I think the Hushbringer is going to be the difference in this game. I think that we are starting to come back in this particular match until that Hushbringer came out. And now this is definitely going to be too far. Like, best case scenario is my opponent attacks with Healer's Hawk, which would be a terrible play.
up for battle.
I mean, that's fine on Linden. So Pridemate coming in, Linden coming in. Gideon coming in. Come on, get that Healer's Hawk. You want to. Attacking with that Healer's Hawk. Because we're so dead to Gideon next turn. I mean, what can we draw that gets us out of this? Like a Johnny we need Sorin to kill that Hushbringer next turn. So I think we just take the damage from Linden, block Gideon, and block Johnny's Pridemate. Unfortunately, it does shut off the die effect, though, from Midnight Reaper as well. So we need Sorin to come in and kill that Hushbringer. Otherwise, we are pretty much dead. I don't think I had any other way of dealing with. Failed Passage is definitely not where we want to be. We needed that like a couple turns ago. But yeah, Hushbringer. So we will attack into Gideon with the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. That should get the block on the Healer's Hawk. Which is fine. Another Aerialist can come out now as another blocker. And another Celebrant, but I mean, we are in pretty terrible shape here. With Gideon being able to ult. Ah, lousy Hushbringer. Yeah, if Hushbringer doesn't come out here, we start to really pull ahead. Unfortunately, Heloud's going to be lethal here. Especially putting a bunch of counters on the Hushbringer. Because whenever you gain life, and Linden says, gain life, gain life, gain life, gain life, gain life, gain life, gain life. We're basically have to block with almost everything. And jeez, my opponent is so slow. It's not the Pro Tour, dude. Yep, that definitely is the right play. See where that my opponent, if my opponent's smart, would put every counter on Hushbringer. Okay, decides to go like that, huh? So we can kill a Starfield Mystic. So we're going to block you here. That's just the smart play. That has to be blocked. I mean, these are the weakest cards to just throw away. Unfortunately, we have to block like this, I believe. So we want the two Aerialists alive. And when we take 3... I guess I don't have to... Yes, I do have to block Gideon. I have to block everything. So we lose a bunch of stuff. I'm sure going to give a Johnny's Private lifelink with Heliod. It's over. I'm sick of my opponent taking 9 years too. So yeah, we need that Hushbringer to avoid like at least one more turn to really get our draw engine. We had the double Witch's Oven. That could hopefully draw us into something that then, like a Sorin coming up, that could then kill a Hushbringer. And then I think we would have been in okay shape, even with Heliod. I mean, Heliod can start making other big threats huge, but we're also going to have a pretty decently sized threat ourselves, and 2 of them. But, I mean, that's going to be a rough matchup to begin with. Any sort of drain life deck is going to struggle versus life gain decks. So all in all, the conclusion is Sorin's quite awkward without a huge payoff in this deck. In fact, Sorin doesn't really work that well in either of these decks to begin with. I think these decks have merit, both of them. With the kind of the Surveil strategy was very surprising. I think it worked out quite well with those, hitting those Thought Erasures into the Blood Operative. That was a neat little interaction. So it'd be fun to look and see how well just Surveil itself would do in the current meta, because that's pretty relevant at the moment with Blood Operative getting rid of cards out of the graveyard. However, it is what it is with how the meta is driven right now. The mono white deck is very tough for either one of these decks to beat. But we'll have to wait and see if things are printed in Ikoria or in the next core set for Sorin. Give Sorin one last hoorah to shine in Standard. I think that the card is definitely on power level to get there, and it's one of my favorite cards for Pioneer, as I think it just gets better and better and better. So again, not the best showing. Still, though, fun card, and this was a fun challenge. Interested in what you would put in your Sorin deck if you go a different route than I would, or if, we kind of found the best 60, 75 that can be played right now with the Sorin deck in Standard. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.